The phone shattered my sleep like an alarm meant for disasters. My mother didn't greet me. She launched straight into panic, claiming my sister was dying and the hospital demanded $22,000 before sunrise. Her tone wasn't desperate for help. It was certain I would comply. I asked what happened, but she dodged every question as if information was irrelevant. My wife sat up, confused, watching me pace while my mother repeated deadlines like a debt collector. No details, only pressure. Something felt staged, as though I wasn't being informed of a tragedy, but being cornered into one. That night, fear wasn't what gripped me. Suspicion did. My mother wasn't asking for assistance. She was assigning responsibility I never agreed to carry. My childhood wasn't built on affection. It was built on obligation. I wasn't praised for achievements. I was summoned when something broke. If the power bill was late, I paid it. If someone wrecked a car, I handled repairs. My sister lived recklessly, shielded from consequences by excuses and applause. She was adored for merely existing, while my worth was calculated by what I could solve. My mother never wondered if I was tired or struggling. She assumed I would sacrifice whatever was needed. Now, this supposed medical emergency felt like another chapter in a lifelong script. They dramatized chaos. I fund the resolution. I wasn't the child they loved. I was the resource they relied on, and apparently, my sister's life came itemized. Before sending anything, I called the hospital, expecting urgency. Instead, I received confusion. No record of my sister. No admission. No surgery. The receptionist checked twice, then a third time, and apologized for not finding her name anywhere. When I confronted my mother, her explanations twisted like smoke. Suddenly, my sister was in a different department, then a special clinic, then an unnamed location that didn't list patients publicly. Every answer felt preloaded, as though she anticipated suspicion. True emergencies stay consistent. Lies evolve under pressure. The more she spoke, the more my panic dissolved into focus. Something wasn't wrong with my sister. Something was wrong with the story, and I was beginning to understand that this night wasn't accidental. It was engineered. Still unsettled, I opened social media, needing answers. There she was, my supposedly dying sister, smiling at a party, cocktail in hand, surrounded by friends. The photo was recent, timestamped just hours before the frantic call. She looked healthy, carefree, not remotely near hospital. The laughter in her eyes contradicted every word my mother screamed. My confusion turned into something colder. My mother wasn't misinformed. She was manufacturing urgency. My sister wasn't a victim in crisis. She was an accomplice to a deception. That realization hit harder than the lie itself. The crisis wasn't medical. It was financial. They weren't trying to save her life. They were testing my obedience. And for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was observing. 2 days later, a cousin casually revealed something that froze me. My entire family had met without me. They sat together and discussed my financial duty as though it were a household assignment. They concluded I was responsible because I was the stable one, a phrase they used like a sentence rather than praise. No one wondered if I could spare $22,000. They didn't care about fairness or my consent. They assumed compliance. They weren't shocked by the lie. They were shocked I questioned it. That gathering wasn't about my sister's well-being. It was about securing funding. The entitlement was so ingrained that deceit felt justified. They didn't exclude me accidentally. They excluded me strategically. My absence made manipulation easier. The truth didn't arrive with a confession. It arrived with paperwork. A friend who worked in real estate mentioned my sister had been touring luxury apartments. That comment lodged itself in my mind like a splinter I couldn't ignore. I searched public listings and found her name attached to a pending application for a downtown unit with a price tag matching the amount my mother demanded. $22,000 wasn't a miracle-saving hospital fee. It was the deposit for a lifestyle upgrade. Suddenly, every unanswered question made sense. Hospitals don't demand upfront wire transfers. They certainly don't negotiate life and death like business transactions. But landlords do, and my sister had never been denied something she wanted, not when someone else could absorb the cost. My parents weren't rescuing her. They were promoting her once again on my dime. When I confronted my mother, she didn't deny anything outright. She pivoted to emotional blackmail, insisting my sister needed her own space to grow. She painted her irresponsibility as vulnerability, her entitlement as innocence. My role was predefined: provide, never question. But hearing her defend deception as family duty shifted something in me. I wasn't financing independence. I was subsidizing manipulation. I replayed every moment of that night. Her tone, her urgency, her refusal to offer details. It wasn't panic. It was strategy. They assumed that if the story was frightening enough, I'd act first and think later. For years, I had done exactly that. I mistook guilt for love and responsibility for loyalty. But responsibility without respect isn't family. It's exploitation. That realization didn't break something in me. It built something new: boundaries. They forged this crisis expecting obedience. Instead, they awakened clarity. If they wanted a benefactor, they should have raised one. They raised a thinker instead. I told them I would wire the money, and their tone shifted instantly. Suddenly, I was cherished. My phone filled with affection that felt rehearsed, like lines from a script they had practiced. What they didn't know was that I had already contacted my lawyer. I hadn't transferred funds. I had compiled evidence, screenshots of threats, timestamps contradicting their claims, and every fabricated detail. They believed I was cornered. In reality, I was documenting. Their praise wasn't love, it was anticipation of payday. They expected another rescue, unaware the transaction had changed. I wasn't preparing a deposit. I was preparing a reckoning, and they were signing their own confession one message at a time. When they arrived at my home, they carried gratitude they hadn't earned. My mother expected a check. My sister expected celebration. Instead, they found my attorney waiting with a folder thicker than their lies. Every contradiction, every false claim, every manipulated message was exposed. My mother tried tears, my sister blamed stress, but documents don't sympathize. The lease application said everything. I didn't yell or justify myself. I simply stated one sentence: I will no longer finance manipulation. Their silence finally matched the truth. I left the room lighter than I had been in years. That night, when the phone stayed quiet, I realized peace doesn't arrive when problems disappear. It arrives when you stop funding them.